Today on Bakes and Blenders, you're going to learn how to make a sprinkle fault line cake, and then we're going to top it with an adorable heart made out of sprinkles. This trendy cake is so adorable. Let's get started. I'm starting with a cake that has already been filled, stacked, and crumb coated, and it's nice and chill. If you need a tutorial on how to get to this point, check the link up on your screen and down below in the description box. Now I'm just placing a few strips of wax paper along the bottom third of my cake. This is simply to prevent sprinkles from creating a huge mess I have to deal with later. If you don't feel like doing this step, you don't have to, but it really does help. You also want to make sure that you don't put your wax strips up too high. Some of mine were, and I didn't love that, but it still works. You want to make sure that you leave enough space for a nice thick band that we're about to add. Once you're happy with the placement of your wax strips, you're going to add a band of buttercream frosting around the middle of your cake. This band does not need to be very thick at this point, because after we pipe it all the way around, go back and smooth it with a cake scraper, an offset spatula, and this is going to be where we're going to be attaching our sprinkles. Ideally, you want this band to take up about a third of your cake right in the center. So try and think about it like you are creating a thin band of frosting around that middle layer of cake. Now it's time to add our sprinkles. Take a large handful of sprinkles and very carefully press that into your band of frosting. Now, a lot of the sprinkles are going to fall off and go all over the place, but keep working your way around the cake, adding handfuls of sprinkles. I put my cake stand on top of a baking sheet. This was super helpful for catching some of the extra sprinkles that did fall off. However, even with this, I did end up with sprinkles everywhere. Just a warning. If you run out of sprinkles in your little bowl, go ahead and just sweep up all those extra sprinkles that are on your cake board, in your cookie sheet, and just use those. Just work your way all the way around the cake until the band of frosting is completely covered in sprinkles. Once you're happy with your sprinkle situation, go ahead and brush all those extra sprinkles off your cake board and into the baking sheet. Now, very carefully remove those wax strips from the bottom third of your cake. If you feel like you need to do any touching up after that, you can do that very carefully. Otherwise, you can go ahead and put your cake in the fridge to chill. We want this frosting to set up nice and firm, so leave it in there for at least 30 minutes. Now take your cold cake out of the fridge, and we're going to add our final coat of frosting, which is going to create that fault line effect. In my opinion, the best way to do this is to use a large round piping tip to apply your buttercream. It's essential that your final coat of frosting be thicker than that band of sprinkles, because when we go to smooth it out, we don't want to knock off any sprinkles. We also need that frosting to be thicker so that it creates the depth and look of the fault line cake. When you get close to the band of sprinkles, you can also make your piping a little more irregular, more up and down, so that it creates a more jagged look. Totally up to you. You can find links to the products that I've used in the description box below this video. Now for the scary part, we're going to smooth those sides. Very carefully use a tall cake scraper to smooth out the sides of your cake. It is very likely that you will knock off a couple of sprinkles, but it's okay. It's going to work out. If you do knock off a sprinkle, as soon as you notice it, use your offset spatula, a toothpick, or whatever to gently, carefully remove that sprinkle so you don't create more of a problem. And just try your best to avoid knocking sprinkles off if you can. If you find that you're bumping into the sprinkles too frequently, you can slightly tilt your cake scraper away from the center while you're working at the bottom, and then smooth out the top separately. This can lead to wonky sides though, so only use this technique sparingly. I'm using an almond Swiss meringue buttercream. I love this type of frosting for making a sprinkle fault line cake because it smooths very easily and it's not going to dry out and crust over while I'm working with it, which could create problems. However, you can use whichever frosting you'd like. I just do suggest sticking with a meringue-based frosting. You can find the recipe for this buttercream as well as the white almond cake and raspberry filling that makes up this beautiful cake in a link in the description box below this video. Fill, patch, or tidy up any air pockets, bubbles, or bumps on your cake as you're smoothing out your frosting. And let's not forget about the top of your cake. Apply a thin layer of frosting to the top, smooth it out, tidy it up to make it look beautiful. Once the sides of your cake are nice and smooth, you're happy with them, the top of your cake is frosted and cleaned up and you've got nice sharp edges. As soon as that's all done, you're going to pop your cake back in the fridge. Again, we want our buttercream to set up and get nice and firm. It will not crust again because it is a meringue-based buttercream, but we want it to be nice and solid. So leave it in there for at least 30 minutes, but I suggest a couple of hours. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more of my videos. But wait, before you pop your cake in the fridge, go back through and check out that band of sprinkles. If there are any bits that look like they need a few more sprinkles, use a pair of tweezers to insert some of your bigger sprinkles from your mix into that sprinkle band. This is just a great opportunity to add a little bit more bling, tidy up those sprinkles if you need to. However, if everything looks grand and good to go ahead and pop it into the fridge. To really make the fault line pop, I suggest framing it with a metallic touch. Today I'm using edible silver leaf. Silver and gold leaf can be finicky to work with, but the effect truly is stunning. I used some bamboo tweezers and a paintbrush I use on my cakes to maneuver the silver leaf onto the edge of that fault line to highlight that jagged buttercream crack we've got going on. I also tested out some silver paint on the cake to see which look I liked better. It's just a bit of silver luster dust mixed with a few drops of high-proof alcohol and until it's a paint consistency and then just dabbed onto the cake. Check them out. Let me know in the comments below which look you like better. Ultimately, I just loved that unbeatable shine of the edible silver leaf, so that's what I stuck with for the rest of the cake. Now this part does take a hot minute and you're going to need to be patient working with silver leaf. But just work your way around the cake, picking up strips of your silver leaf and gently, carefully applying them to your fault line. This is a great opportunity to create a more jagged appearance if your fault line ended up being a little too rigid and straight. How you put the silver leaf on is going to highlight any motion in the fault line, so you can add it a little more jaggedy if you want a rougher edge. You can also cover up any blemishes that are along the fault line, any imperfections that you don't like. This is a great way to not only make your sprinkle fault line cake look stunning, but also hide anything you don't like. Your buttercream does need to be solid for this to work. Otherwise, you're going to be picking up frosting with your paintbrush as you're patting the silver leaf into place. If that starts to happen, if your frosting has softened up too much, no worries. Simply pause what you're doing, put the cake back in the fridge for another 15 minutes, even 30 minutes if you really think it needs it. Then take it back out and continue right where you left off. Now, applying the silver leaf to the top part of the fault line was definitely more difficult than working on the bottom half. That being said, just keep trucking along, be patient, and work very carefully with your silver leaf, and it will be worth it at the end. Now, the fun thing about the sprinkle fault line cake technique is you can use any sort of color palette you want. You can create your own sprinkle blend if you want. You can go crazy, really make this your own. Maybe you want to use edible gold leaf. Maybe you want to use a shiny cake paint. Whatever you want, make this cake yours. Now let's decorate the top of the cake. Place a cookie cutter on top of your cake wherever you would like your design to be. Gently press the cookie cutter into place once you've got it wherever you'd like it so that it creates a bit of a seal. Now you can spoon in a thin layer of sprinkles. You want to make sure you cover the entire area within the cookie cutter, but you don't want it to be a thick layer, otherwise at the end the sprinkles are going to go everywhere. Once you've got that thin layer there, you want to use your spoon to gently but firmly press the sprinkles into the frosting so that they don't go all over the place. Now I'm using a heart cookie cutter because I think it works with the romantic vibe of this pink cake with the pink sprinkles, and we've got Valentine's Day right around the corner, but you can use whatever cookie cutter you'd like. For this next bit, I decided to transfer my cake board to a cake stand instead of the turntable. Carefully lift your cookie cutter straight up off your cake. You will probably have a couple of sprinkles that run away from you. That's okay. Use tweezers or a paintbrush to get those either off the cake or back into place. Tidy it up, make sure it looks great. I thought about framing this heart with some more edible silver leaf, and I think that would have been beautiful, but honestly, I was just tired and I was ready to be done. However, if you give that a try, I would love to hear how that works for you. And that's your sprinkle fault line cake all done. It's a fairly simple cake decorating technique, and I think it looks so beautiful with that edible silver leaf trim around the crack through your cake. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you're going to use these techniques to create your own unique, beautiful cake. If you'd like to see any of my other cake videos, check out your screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Happy baking!